Today we have Bill Beutler with us, a Wikipedia expert. Is that fair to say, Bill? You are expert at Wikipedia.
I will not deny it.
So it's a yes?
It's a yes, but as I was saying before the show, the thing is Wikipedia is so big that even the most veteran of veterans don't know everything that happens there. So I will do the best I can. And if I don't know, I'll just say, that requires more research.
Yeah. It really is kind of like the eighth wonder of the world at this point. The fact that it exists, it's so huge, it's editable by anybody. It's got all kinds of intrigue and politicking and interestingness around it. I mean, it really is a fascinating creation that exists in the digital world, isn't it?
There's nothing else like it. For many years, I would say that even Google has competitors. Even, I don't know, Amazon, I guess. Even Amazon has competitors, right? Walmart. But Wikipedia, until maybe very recently, if we want to go in this direction, there's no other substitute. And so it's also the thing that all the other big tech giants can agree on, that they use it to underpin information. It's the canonical source of information on the internet.
What does it mean practically, if you could just flex a little potentially right here at the top?
Sure.
What does it mean to be an expert, or at least a self-professed expert in Wikipedia? What does that mean?
Well, gosh, probably everybody is self-professed if they say they are.
Right.
It's the same thing as being a Wikipedia editor in the first place. What does it mean to be a Wikipedian? Because to some extent, it is just you have an account, you make edits, you want to advance the Wikipedia's mission, and you just kind of demonstrate it day by day. And when it comes to being an expert, I mean, I guess it would be, you could ask my friends who are Wikipedia editors if I'm a Wikipedia expert, and I think they would say yes. That said, though, it is not hard, just like on Wikipedia, because it is so vast, it is diffuse, the community is the borders are porous. People come and go. You can just say you are, but then you have to back it up, and anyone can dispute anything. And I am not an expert on certainly the technical side of how the Squid servers work and all that, but the community dynamics, the guidelines that underpin the content, that's where I'm strongest.
Does Wikipedia have things like RFCs where or specifications for how is there protocols that you can just like flex on and say, you know what? I know RFC 525 and on line 7 it says X.
I mean, RFC is very much a thing on Wikipedia. It's a request for comment. Is that what your RFC is?
I think there's a couple different flavors of it, but pretty much, yeah.
I mean, so I don't know. An RFC would be a formal call, semi-formal. Nothing is completely formal in Wikipedia. Call for editors to give comment on a difficult issue that editors are trying to resolve. And there certainly are policies that people will cite, and they'll do so in shorthand. Like probably one of the more famous rules is, neutrality, the policy that says you have to write with a neutral point of view. And so the shorthand for that is WP:NPOV, or oftentimes it's just NPOV. And so if you're in a discussion with Wikipedia editors and you drop, some of these terms, that's one way to demonstrate you are, speaking the language.
You're in the know. You're in the circle.
Yeah, right.
What are some other things like NPOV makes sense? What are the other like shorthand principles that all the editors know about?
I'll tell you one that's even more obscure that probably many people have learned about NPOV over time. I'll give you another one that is used by editors really in the know, and that is called not here. All caps, NOTHERE. And this is when you're dealing with a problem editor. And if this, Wikipedia tries to give benefit of the doubt to new editors coming in. If they mess something up, you want to assume good faith. And there's actually a policy called assume good faith. But at a certain point, that can be abused and you have to no longer do that. And so not here is shorthand for not here to build an encyclopedia. And so that is sort of like if two veteran editors are discussing a third editor and one says the other is not here, that is like a signal that someone's getting ready to, break out the ban hammer or, put someone on suspension.
What are the official rules? I know there's something like no first party sources, or there's specific things where If I'm just going to become an editor, I assume I go read a document that tells me like, here's how it's going to work. Can you just lay the base foundation for how pages come to be or edits come to be, principally, not technically?
Yeah, let me start with the kind of the superstructure of the rules, and we can get into some of the more specifics. So, and so there's not one document you'd be reading. It's many documents.
Okay.
And like when I got into Wikipedia, 20 some years ago, I was a much younger man then. I was single and had free time, and I would spend my hungover Sunday mornings just reading endless policy pages on Wikipedia.
Because the hangover wasn't bad enough for you? You had to submit yourself to more?
It slowed me down enough that I could just read. They're so long. These pages are so long.
Okay.
But there are policies that are absolutely mandatory. There are guidelines, which are very strongly advisory. There's even a third level of rule, and that would be essays, like community essays, where they describe perspective points of view, but they don't necessarily carry the weight of a policy or a guideline. And so the policies tend to be focused on editor behavior, such as not creating multiple accounts, no sock puppetry, things like that neutral point of view. Some of the core policies are content focused. But once you get outside those core policies into the guidelines, then you have things like, how do you write titles of nobility? Do you put spaces in between, like say the name JR, or like JR Ewing? Do you put spaces in between that? Last time I checked on this, don't, come after me if it's no longer the case. But yes, you always put spaces in between like those two letters, even if the person themselves does not.
How about the Oxford comma? Are they pro or against?
I think more pro, but it's also not uniform. Like,
really? Because
the site is so vast.
Right.
Again, I reserve the right to be wrong on this one, but
that's interesting. Because the Associated Press has a similar nature. Is there any overlap between the Associated Press's version of that and how it shows up in journalism to Wikipedia's?
There may be, but it would be more incidental. Like they're not following Chicago style or anything like that. They've developed their own style over time. And by the way, another thing that they have to contend with is they have, English comes in multiple flavors, right? There's American English, there's British English. And so, for example, I'll tell you what, some of my very earliest edits to Wikipedia back in the late aughts was changing British spellings in the articles about the Sopranos TV show back to English, because the show had a huge following in the UK. So a lot of and British editors really punch above their weight in terms of contributing to Wikipedia. But if it is an American subject, it should be written in American English and vice versa. By the way, if there is not a clear country of origin, yogurt is one topic that there was an endless edit war many years ago about whether there should be an H in yogurt.
There's no H in yogurt. Is there an H in yogurt?
Well, it depends on where you are.
Or like, like gas versus petrol. They say petrol over there. And I could be wrong, but the last I checked, I thought it was still saying petrol. In that case, it's just whoever created the page first. And now that was so long ago that no one remembers.
Crazy. And you actually created a company around this, because anytime you have a website as massive as that, it becomes like kind of the standard of record. When things are on Wikipedia, doesn't mean they're true, but it means they're at least vetted to a certain extent and people accept it as true. And so PR is a huge aspect of that, because you aren't in control of your page or a topics page. You probably want that to, if you're a public figure, you want to be painted in a good light. Maybe you want a scandal hidden, et cetera, et cetera. If you're a business, you may want to just maintain your reputation. I'm not saying you're doing scandalous PR stuff, Bill. I'm not sure what you're doing, but I assume you're helping businesses engage correctly with Wikipedia. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, I mean, that the last part is definitely correct. We help our clients influence how Wikipedia writes about them, but also while following the rules of engagement for PR. So my career goes back to the early 2000s. I was a political journalist early in my career, working in Washington, D.C. And around this time, the political blogosphere, which I don't know if that even really still exists. It's all kind of like coalesced into, Substack has kind of made a little bit of a comeback.
True.
Right. But the political blogosphere was exerting influence. And so around 2004, I was writing a column about political blogging, for this insider tip sheet, sort of like a forerunner of Politico. And Wikipedia kept showing up in the blog posts. It was one thing. It was like the one thing that editors of the left and right and center all seemed to agree on, that like this is an interesting resource that can help explain concepts, so I don't have to write them out. And I got out of journalism and went to go work at a public affairs firm, digital public affairs firm, and I was the person in the office who talked about Wikipedia the most, just because I thought it was fascinating. Although the truth of the matter is, I'd never actually edited the site myself at this point in time. What I had done was I was going to try to stand up my own wiki site. And naturally, I was going to create Blogopedia. It was going to be a directory, an encyclopedia of all the blogs out there. This thing never got off the ground. And then one day, the CEO of the company asked if I would make a change to his, I had a friend who's a member of Congress, would I make a change to his page? And so kind of looked into it, and I was like, all right, he's got a point here. And I'll tell you what I did first that really did set the stage for the rest of it. And that was, I didn't just go make the change. I kind of read up on the policy, and then I went to the talk page, the discussion section for that article, and explained what I was about to do. And then I did it, and it stuck. And I got a thank you from another editor for it. And I probably wouldn't have done it exactly the same way today, but this was showing some foresight, showing some kind of respect for the fact that other people had views about how things were done on Wikipedia, put me in a good headspace to kind of, diplomatically work through issues. And in particular, the company I worked for at the time, it had clients one they had back then was Domino's Pizza. And there's this teeny tiny scandal's even the wrong word, but a negative news story from way back then where someone at a Domino's somewhere was, an employee was doing disgusting things with the pizza and blowing snot into it or whatever. And it made the news. So someone had added it to Wikipedia. It was true. It had a source. In theory, well, that's all you need for Wikipedia. But I was able to make the case that, these were just some random, low-level employees. This was not something that had buy-in from the corporate, structure. In fact, the company responded quickly. And I got editors to agree that, this was trivial. It was not something that needed to be in the Domino's page. And so that was probably one of the big, aha moments was, if I make a good enough case, I can persuade editors that the Wikipedia article should say something different, in part, as you said, because it has the power, and even more so now than then, has the power to affect the reputations of, the subject it covers.
Mm-hmm. Is there a maximum length, or there's a point where it's because you could just put everything about Domino's you could possibly gather, and at a certain point it becomes too much information.
Not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone who's just adding too much.
Not here.
Not here.
How do you know when not here comes into play? That just people have to make a call.
I'll tell you what, I don't think it would come into play there, because if you're adding too much, you're here to build too much of an encyclopedia. And that's
right.
Okay. Too much.
It's definitely such thing as too much. So no, there is an answer to your question, and I believe it is around 100,000 bytes. There's rarely hard and fast rules. But this one says, as an article gets closer to 100,000 bytes, you should consider splitting it. And so this is why you have articles that have, there's a parent article and there'll be a child article. There'll be Microsoft is the article. Then there's criticism of Microsoft, which is, it could be nearly as long as the actual Microsoft article.
Well, they've been around so long. I mean,
yeah.
At a certain point, there's just a lot, there's a lot of history for a lot of these, either whether it's an organization or a topic, or, it's overwhelming sometimes to think about how you would even manage the information architecture of such a thing. And it sounds like it's somewhat organic and has grown over time. How many editors are there? So we had a friend of ours, Andrew Nesbitt, on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about ecosystems and open source, and how he found that when it came to certain popular open source packages, there are about 15,000 people who are kind of underpinning the entire software world, so to speak. There's the old trope from the KCD comic, like it's one person in Nebraska who's like running all the dependencies. Well, it turns out 15,000 around the world is pretty close to that. And I think with Wikipedia, I assume there's like I don't want to call them a cabal, but there's like got to be a core group of N editors who are kind of in charge. Do you know that number? Do you know that? Are you one of that group? Do you know that group?
I am not personally in that group, but I know plenty of people in that group. It's funny. Did you pull the word cabal out of thin air, or did you pull that from doing some reading?
I just thought of it because it seems like appropriate at the time.
It is. Well, so there is even an essay on Wikipedia called "There Is No Cabal."
Oh, really?
And the reason why that essay exists is because the cynical take on it is, there's not one cabal. There's many cabals. And, that meaning there are kind of groups of editors who will talk together offline. Right. And like offline coordination is frowned upon, but let's not pretend it doesn't happen. It can happen in good ways. It can happen in bad ways. I think it's kind of value neutral. Mm-hmm. But to your question about like, what is like, because there's a similar to open source communities for sure, which is it's an open knowledge community. Right. Open source is certainly a component of it. It follows a power law where there is a small number of highly active editors up at the very top, and then a long tail of contributors who are, might contribute here and then. So the numbers I'm going to give you are going to be very approximate, and they're just kind of offered for demonstrative purposes, not to be quoted as accurate. And these numbers are very findable. But let's say that there's 3,000 editors who are editing every single day, often hours a day. And they are really like the core group that keeps Wikipedia going. And a lot of them are not always writing the articles that you read. They are kind of arguing over policy, banning problem editors, and kind of working out kind of this structure of all the behind the scenes stuff, janitorial stuff at best. I don't know about at best, but like, Wikipedia has an arbitration committee that is sometimes considered to be Wikipedia's Supreme Court. Like that kind of, they're in that 3,000. Mm-hmm. And you've got maybe, 30,000 editors who are editing in a given month. I'm in that group. I don't edit as often as I used to in the early years, and there's also definitely a lifespan, like there's I'm forgetting the term I'm looking for here, but like a course of events where
like a life cycle.
Life cycle, that is what I'm looking for. A life cycle to being an editor, where you kind of get in, you get real excited, and you add a lot of material, and then you kind of like drift away as you've already. Burnout is totally one thing. Shared all the knowledge you wanted to share is another. There's a lot of editors who really don't create content. They just like kind of shuffle around categories and poke around here and there. And then to finish out the down at the long tail, and there's about 100,000 editors who are, and this one I'm a little more certain of, about 100,000 editors who make minimum one edit per month. And so that's great. But, it is really the people at the very top who are, doing the most of it.
It's kind of crazy. So going back to your work and how that works, how your work works is like, when a company engages with you, do you then advise them how to engage with Wikipedia? Or is it like, hey, we really want Bill's edits and he has clout? Because there's like a clout system that's just part of humanity, right? That's built into this, like as you edit to a certain extent. Like this guy's reliable because he's been not just doing this one company or this one topic. He's like, there's clearly people that just come with their agenda, and then there's people who are just there to edit, and then they may also have and it's just, there's so many different angles. Oh, sure. How do you engage? How do you tell brands to engage?
Yeah. So we'll do both, by the way. Myself or members of our strategy team. We have a 6-person strategy team. Or 7, I suppose. But, the folks who are working on Wikipedia all day, every day. And we will, using our disclosed, business accounts that say, I'm Bill and I work at Beutler Inc. And, my client is such and such, and I'd like to propose a change on this page. We'll do that. We also will coach our clients through leading outreach themselves. And so for large companies where they have a corporate comms division and they have more resources, I don't know if they have time for it, but they, if a big company shows interest in Wikipedia and cares enough to put an employee on it and share information and talk with editors, that can be a good look. And so that's certainly a thing we do for certain, especially like Fortune 50 clients, but also we will represent clients ourselves. And, if you're having us do it, then you really have to we're going to decide what we're going to be willing to ask for or not. If the company is the one who's out there with the disclosure, it's all on them. If they want to push a little harder on something that's in the gray area, we might be willing to do that. But the fact is, yes, there is an aspect of reputation where we're likely to get faster replies, myself or my colleagues, because editors will be more likely to recognize us. On the other hand, though, there's, thousands of editors out there and they don't all know us. So, there are projects where we work on the talk page communicating for a company, and we'll be talking to editors we've never run across before. So Wikipedia is all shades of gray. There's never any one right way to do everything.
So a lot of sites or a lot of tech companies, because of their location and their employee base and stuff, they tend to lean to the left side of the political spectrum here in the United States. And there's lots of claims that Wikipedia also is, captive to that. And I'm curious your perspective from in the trenches kind of guy who's getting changes done. Do you see overwhelming political leanings, generally speaking, in Wikipedia? Do you think that that's bunk? What are your thoughts on that?
So, to the point about companies and their lean, I mean, they certainly did, I would say, in the Obama, administration, Obama era, but especially in now Trump too, I think that, they kind of blow with which way the winds, are going. So that they're very malleable. They'll go where the dollars tell them they need to. Right.
They have shareholder value to worry about.
100%. Wikipedia, I would say, and just for the record, I'm pretty centrist myself. I was a little more on the right when I was in my 20s. I'm a little centrist, not quite the left in my 40s, but I've seen the full gamut. And Wikipedia definitely has a center left, even maybe a little bit left bias. And I would say that has something to do with the fact that a lot of the contributors, many have an academic background that obviously leans heavily left, that journalistic values, which sometimes often have at least, even if not, I would say a left-wing bias, they are at least, they parallel, there's a parallel perspective there. That said, right now, there's probably more right-wing criticism of Wikipedia than there has been in ever, really. And it's been kind of rising over the last few years. And it's not to say that there aren't some, decent criticisms of the handling of certain topics, but I think a lot of them kind of willfully misunderstand how Wikipedia uses sources. So one of the big complaints would be, well, we can't use Breitbart or, the New York Post or the Daily Mail to cite sources. Right. And kind of blow right past the fact that these are all publications that are known for, that are not known for their journalistic, scrutiny, integrity. Yeah. No one's going to flag you for using the Telegraph or using the Wall Street Journal. But, the fringier sources, and now there are more fringy sources on the right. I think there's a whole interesting thing to be written about, many things to be written about why that's the case. Why the right does not have kind of journalistic values as part of its, animating values, and the left does more. That's a huge topic, and it could be the rest of the show if you want it to be. And I've written about this. I don't want it to be.
I just wanted to tiptoe into it and then move on. No, this is interesting perspective from you.
I think the way to maybe approach that without going left, right, or center is to talk about how power is distributed. Because you mentioned there's no cabal, right? So if there's no cabal, how is power distributed? How do you acquire power? How do editors squash other editors? How are their clicks? Things like that. I think that's kind of maybe a version, Jerod, of what you're talking about, because it's not quite that, but it's how do you leverage your own bias and your own power?
Yeah, I mean, so you can definitely discuss it in terms that are not explicitly left-right political. Yeah. There's kind of a truism that if there is no visible hierarchy in an organization or a community, then it becomes an invisible hierarchy. And so that is 100% true at Wikipedia. And, to my knowledge, nobody has ever mapped out exactly what that looks like. If you were to look at Wikipedia's own maintained list of the most active editors in Wikipedia. Within that, like top 50 or so, you're going to find some of those editors who are, just by virtue of being there all the time, the ones who they know the most policy, they have the most connections. And so, in certain topic areas, there are topic areas that do get captured by the contributors. Mm-hmm. Most of those are not necessarily at the most, highest level, most active pages. A lot of times that's in, little out of the way places where most editors don't care to spend any time there. And so, when I talk about the rules of Wikipedia, I mentioned the policies and the guidelines. I didn't mention that there are 5 pillars of Wikipedia, which are like Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, Wikipedia has no firm rules, et cetera, things like that. There's a 6th pillar that people sometimes refer to, and that is, the person who cares the most ends up getting their way.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
That can be life sometimes too. Yeah, just like, well, you care more than the rest of us, so go ahead, man. Just go ahead. That can be shaky when it comes to like what's true or not. It's like the person that cares the most gets their edit. It's like, well, how about the most truthful thing? But when we all disagree about what's true, I mean, those are really hard problems, aren't they?
It is. I mean, remember like Stephen Colbert back in the early days of his Comedy Central show coined a word. It was wikiality. And wikiality was, it's the truth that we all agree on because we just agreed was the case. And so it was, it was couched as a criticism of Wikipedia, but also was more broadly intended to comment on shared delusions that, in his case, he was definitely criticizing the American right that, but certainly shared delusions have no political home.
Mm-hmm.
They could be all over the place. And so there's a bad version of that, and there's a good version of that. And one of the things about Wikipedia that I find really to be fascinating, probably one of the reasons why I got drawn to the project in the first place, was life does not have a black and white answers for many, many things. 1 + 1 = 2, yes, but the right form of government is something that can change over time even, as like democracy works in the United States. It has had a harder time in other countries. It's not because democracy is itself is like bad or wrong in some other place. It can be about what the culture around it is. And so there's just no way that you can set it and forget it with Wikipedia or with all the topics it covers. And so you have to, there's no substitute for the daily task of rolling up your sleeves, getting in there and making sure that things stay correct. And like, that's why Wikipedia's job will never be done. It's an ideological informational battle that, that rages on around us and never will go away. If it goes away, then there's a problem, right? Like if Wikipedia like calms down, that is when I get worried. As long as people are arguing about it, it's healthy.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been telling people who don't understand how all these new AI chatbots are doing what they do, just as a mental model, I know it's not actually true. Mm-hmm. I just say, just imagine that they're kind of reading Wikipedia to you. Like they basically read the page so you don't have to, and then they summarize it. I mean, obviously that's a simplification and not always true, but certainly these things have all read Wikipedia and continue to, right?
That is probably the most succinct way of putting it, that they have read it and continue to.
Well, trying to think of like why it might go away is because maybe there's a demand for the information, but not for the website, so to speak. Like,
oh yeah,
and then there becomes either a perverse or inverse incentive to even edit if there's no demand for the website. I mean, I feel like a lot of our internet underpinnings are kind of up in the air right now of like, where will they be in 10 years? And I'm not so sure about Wikipedia because it's certainly it's tantamount to these things right now.
Right.
And new things they need, but why edit it if, there's no there?
It's a really fascinating question because a conversation that Wikipedia editors are, having themselves. And the foundation that runs Wikipedia also is very much focused on this issue. I am a little more bullish. I've, been around for Wikipedia about 20 years and I've seen many predictions of its demise.
Okay.
I remember I was even like interviewed for an Economist story back in, I want to say like 2012. It was called Wiki Peaks. play on WikiLeaks, but WikiPeaks. It was like, has it reached its zenith?
That's like a Twin Peaks thing. Okay, yeah, the peak of Wiki. Gotcha.
Right. Or like peak oil, that concept. And so I've seen, rumors of its death have been greatly exaggerated in the past. And I will say that I do think the core community doesn't do it for the clicks. They do it because it's a hobby. It is something that I oftentimes will liken editing Wikipedia, especially the people who are just like recategorizing things and kind of going about their way, like just working through multiple articles and making the same kind of change over and over. It's like knitting. It's like, a repetitive,
like a way to relax,
soothing, 100%. I have friends who will sit down after a hard day's work and just kind of click through their, edit list and like make the same change over. And there's a weirdly satisfying thing in doing that. And that's one mode of like motivation for Wikipedia editors. But of course, there are many. Mm-hmm. And as long as Wikipedia itself continues to underpin what ChatGPT is putting out there, its influence is going to be continued. I would say that because of the rise of AI search and the widespread awareness that AI has read and continues to read. I love that formulation. I'm going to steal that.
Please do.
Yeah, that that like it's more important than it was, 2 years ago, where people have realized that. Mm-hmm. So it's more front of mind. So, not to get too much into my business specifics, but like this has been a really interesting year. It was kind of a rocky first half of the year. And I think that had something to do with the election and, brands kind of sitting on budgets, waiting to see. But then by the middle of the year, the AI, like this is really the year in multiple ways where AI became part of, business workflows. People kind of figured out how to make use of it, even outside of technical circles. And so the second half of the year has been crazy for us. We really have not seen this kind of interest in a long time. Because all of a sudden, it's not just Google as a driver. That was historically the driver of clients to us, because Google relies on Wikipedia. It shows up at the top of some of these search results. Now there's a whole second driver, and that's ChatGPT.
It's interesting to think about that, though, because you got these interfaces to Wikipedia, right? Like you said, the website not being there, Jerod.
Right.
I think we still need, and I think that's what you're saying, is we need this source of truth. I think so long as we have that centralized and societally elected source of truth, then Wikipedia still has a pretty good underpinning in terms of its foothold to being just that. I can't imagine like that the LLMs extracting that and being trained on that supplants that.
Right.
Because you still need those are distributed. You got various frontier models. They're not all controlled by one. And so they're disparate sources of truth, if you want to call them that. And they're really just copies of the truth, not the actual source.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I still value personally, this is where I'm personally at, I still value the original database, which is Wikipedia. So
right.
I'm bullish as well.
What if you're extracted from that for 5 or 10 years? Are you still going to value that? Or are your kids going to value that?
How do you mean?
Well, your kids might not even know Wikipedia is back there behind the scenes doing its thing.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, and I agree with you guys, that doesn't mean that getting your information in there isn't still important, because eventually it makes its way out of the GPTs, maybe. But they can also opt to not use so you're kind of a degree of separation away from your edit actually being useful, because they may or may not use it in the final output. Whereas anybody who goes to the webpage, they're going to read your sentence as long as your sentence stays, right?
Yeah.
So there is like a decreased value of an editor for those who are not editing because it relaxes them, but they're editing because they want some sort of interest. I have no problem with people editing for self-interest. The only edits I've ever made on Wikipedia was adding links to our podcast. No, it's fine. Because we were a source of information. Like there's a public figure on our show. They said something interesting. You go put it in the page. You get a link back to your podcast. Like that's self-interest, but it also is adding value to the wiki. So it's totally fine. I got no problem with that.
Did those edits stay? Have they remained?
I don't know. Well, the problem was, I think I realized, I thought maybe they were going to be, they're all no follow links, aren't they? Like every link is a no follow.
They are no follow, but still value being there.
Yeah, I think there's still value being there. It was kind of like a ROI question of like, how worth it is it for me to go be doing this? And the answer was like, Maybe I should call Bill Beutler Inc. and have them do it for me, because it's just because okay, my personal use, like I never look at the sources very often, and when I do, I even less often click through to a source.
Sure.
And so if it was a follow link, I would at least be getting Wikipedia juice, and I think that was worth it.
Yeah.
But without that, I was kind of like, eh. And then I think I got one denied, and I was like, well, this sucks.
I mean, this is why they don't follow it. Exactly. Because they don't
Yeah,
want
I understand why they don't follow it. It would be so many more edits if they didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of gave up. I think I did 2 or 3, and I was like, this is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah. And this is why we work with SEO firms a lot less than we work with PR firms.
That
PR
makes
firms
sense.
trying to tell a story about a client, and SEO trying to push a website up. I will say, though, that's starting to change just a little bit in this AEO, GEO era, where, you know, like the links between, actually less adding links, and I'm thinking more of like creating links between pages to like strengthen the relationship between, say, you know, a client's page and a concept they want to be associated with. I'm not saying we're seeing a lot of that, but it's just a conversation. It comes up more often than it did for a long time, which is it almost never came up.
Well, here's a sustainability question, because we're in the current time of year when Wikipedia grants us the awesome please donate button with the picture.
They sure do.
The sob story, which for my money, I'd rather you just charge for the website and not do that. But I understand, like, people have their opinions on it. I like the fact that it's free for everybody, so I understand why they go the route they go.
Yeah.
But you know what Reddit does is they let everybody contribute to Reddit, and then they take all the information and they sell it to OpenAI to be trained on.
And Reddit has advertising. It's a for-profit company, right?
True.
Whereas
Yeah.
Wikipedia is not. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they're sustainable in that way. Like, they're not just sustainable, they're actually like profit generating. You think that Wikipedia could potentially just, I mean, they are the world's source of truth on many topics.
Right.
Couldn't they just charge the model trainers for that and not have to, like, wouldn't humanity be better off if OpenAI and Microsoft and Google were paying Wikipedia, and then they wouldn't have to take donations?
Well, they would have to change their license, you know, their Creative Commons license. That's,
Yes.
That you can use it. Anybody is free to use anything on Wikipedia, remix it, even use it for commercial purposes. And all you have to do is say you got it from Wikipedia, and you're covered.
Yeah.
And that's a very, you know, kind of liberal license that they have chosen.
Yeah.
Copy left as opposed to copyright. Very permissive. And so that is, you know, it's kind of like Jimmy Wales. You know, Jimmy Wales was profiled in the New York Times Magazine about a decade ago with the unfortunate kind of demeaning headline, "Jimmy Wales is not an internet billionaire." You know, among the people who founded top 10 global websites, those guys are all, you know, billionaires many times over, with the exception of Jimmy Wales. And the problem is, and it's not a problem, honestly, Jimmy Wales' wisdom, his smart decision at the time was that if he had tried to make add advertising and make it a for-profit site and then limit it that way, it would not have grown to be what it is. You know, contributors really were drawn to the altruistic nature of it, and that the sense that they were all kind of collecting all the world's knowledge. If they were trying to monetize it, then the whole thing would collapse like a house of cards. So this is still true today. If they were to start charging for it, they could. And then, you know what? I should be careful. There is one part of the Wikimedia Foundation that is charging for some parts of it. And so the Wikimedia Enterprise is a for-profit company inside the Wikimedia Foundation. And I guess I should say they were a one-time client of ours a few years ago, not now, but I still have, you know, friends there. And they do offer up a professional version of the Wikimedia API, which is much more reliable. It has guaranteed uptimes and an SLA, which the regular Wikipedia API, which my firm does use for monitoring software that we built and maintain. It's an unwieldy API that, like, it is, as Wikipedia's knowledge is useful but untamed, so too is their free API. And so they're never, however, going to like charge, say, the AI companies for the main unvarnished product. But what they did do a few months ago was the Wikimedia Foundation was annoyed with the big AI companies for putting strain on their servers by crawling the pages, using up a lot of their server time. And so what they did is they put out a couple of different like cleaned up versions of it that they were here. Hi OpenAI, hi Anthropic, please crawl this one. Don't crawl our main site. We'll give this one away for free. You can crawl it, but they can't, due to their licensing, force them to use it. They're not charging for it. Does anybody use it? I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not even sure the foundation knows the answer. So there's a lot of interesting questions like this that we won't know the answer to, I suppose, for a long time. And to your question earlier about will people contribute if they don't see the page show up in search results, so they don't, there's not the same glory in their work being in the limelight of the top of Google search results. I will say that for the current generation of editors, for the people who built Wikipedia, that does not matter. They do it because they love it. The real question, and this has been a conversation I've heard at a few Wikipedia conferences in the last few years, as Wikipedia approaches its 25th anniversary in January, it'll be celebrating 25. The people who started Wikipedia, they are all 25 years older now. And, obituaries for Wikipedia editors have been, I don't know if feels like they've been getting more common. It would make sense as they all get older.
Sure.
And so I know a handful of people who've been editors who passed away from even old age. And so the real question is, will there be the next generation of editors? Will they come on and continue the work? And that is a source of anxiety for sure.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't think any of us do. I certainly know that, Adam and I are and perhaps you are as well, Bill, kind of raising up the next generation currently. And sometimes their ignorance of the way things work strikes me. And then I realize, well, you're their dad, Jerod. You got to teach them about this stuff. But I think a lot of people don't realize Wikipedia is user-generated content. They just think it's like this encyclopedia that's lives on their
magically
phones.
there.
It's just magically there. I mean,
it's like the internet not being run by Linux, Jerod. It's like the same question. I'm like, I couldn't believe that people don't understand that the internet doesn't run on Linux. Like, who doesn't know that? Well, I guess a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that this fact about Wikipedia is largely unknown by general population. I mean, you got harder issues in your life. Affording your mortgage, being able to actually even buy a house. Affording the college degree you just got, or even being able to, put your kids through college, or afford, the grocery bill you just have to pay for. Like, we were just shopping for groceries, and I was like, everything is up dramatically. Like, wow, Thanksgiving this year is got to be like, okay, all we can do is turkey and potato. That's it. Okay, I'm being facetious, but it's my grocery bill this time. I was like, wow, that's dramatically more than like I'm remembering. So.
Yeah, well, my son, my son is about 4.5 years old. Adam, I heard you mention on a recent episode that your kiddo is doing one of those ninja classes.
Oh yeah, he's a up and coming ninja. He's competing and everything. He's loving it.
Little Billy Beutler is also now a ninja in training as of just a few weeks ago.
Wow, good. Amazing.
Yeah, it's super fun,
especially at the age of 4. I mean, if he keeps up with it, my son's back is what I call swole, if that translates. I think it does.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm like, I've hugged this child for my whole entire life. And now when I hug him, I'm like, I'm envious. I'm like, dang, man. Like, I want my back to be swole like that,
It's never too late to become a ninja, Adam.
I know. I know.
But yeah, will he edit Wikipedia? I mean, someone of his generation will, even if my son does not exactly.
Yeah.
Jerod, you mentioned the point, though, it's your job. I think that's exactly why this kind of podcast exists, and also why we bleep all the curse words, because we truly want to, and I guess for a while it's been the hacker generation, but I guess it's now becoming beyond just simply hacker with shows like this. But I feel like that's the job of content creators like us and guests like you to come on and share this truth and this, this depth of our world. And the things that are important and the reasons to show up and how to do them. Because if not, then who else is going to do it besides the folks like us who are in their 40s and nerds. Like, that's our job, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, it's more than a job for me, like I got interested in Wikipedia before I realized that there was going to be a career in it for me. And so certainly at Beutler Inc., for the clients that we take on, the work that we do, like, one of our core values is just, will our work make the encyclopedia better for its readers? And one, like, I think it's a good moral position to have. It also happens to have the advantage of, like, that's what makes for successful projects.
Right.
Like, the editors will agree with us to make changes if what we bring to the table makes it better for the readers. That's the thing. It's like, can Wikipedia serve its readers well? And, like, sometimes there are challenges where the rules themselves get in the way of making Wikipedia better. And I'll give an example of a current one with a client who's a semi-retired venture capitalist who was divorced some years ago, but his Wikipedia page says he's still married. He's, like, semi-retired. He's not out there making news anymore. So, like, what's he going to do? Go, do an interview just where he can say he's divorced? He won't do that. But there's a novelist, the woman who wrote the novels the Station 11 TV show is based on. She gave an interview to Slate back in 2012 to say, I'm not married anymore, just so Wikipedia would change it.
Oh,
and so
wow.
the fact that, like, it can be so hard to change things like that because of Wikipedia's, like, standard of sourcing, like, we couldn't use, like, the court documents to verify, his marital status for reasons that I could explain, but I don't want to bore your audience. Is like these Wikipedia runs into these limitations where, trying to do the right thing can sometimes produce a worse encyclopedia. That's a whole different thing.
See that I think is kind of weird. So at the risk of boring everybody, if there's a court document that says that this thing is true, and Wikipedia's desire is to be a source of truth, or I'm not sure what the desires are. It seems like that would be what it is. It's like, well, you have evidence that this is true. Why is it invalid evidence? Like, what is the rule?
All right. So I'll cite some more policy at you.
All right,
let's see. So there's going to be the primary sources. There's going to be the biography of living persons. And then there's going to be another one that's actually an essay, but it's very influential. Start with the essay. And this one really throws people for a loop oftentimes, that Wikipedia's goal is verifiability, not truth. And this owes something to the fact that truth is a really difficult subject. Again, 1 + 1 = 2, true. Matters of perspective, much harder to say what the truth is. And so that's one thing. It's like, Wikipedia is not a place to write down things that are true.
Verifiability is the most important thing.
Verifiability.
But
and
isn't
then
a court document verifiability? Like, it's a court document that says they got divorced.
here's where we get to the primary sources part of it, which is, there are primary sources, which would be court documents, government reports. Then there are secondary sources, which would be like news articles, the coverage of those primary sources. There's also tertiary sources, of which Wikipedia is one, or a textbook would be, like compilations. Anyway, back to primary, secondary sources.
That's why I said it would bore us, Jerod. He warned us.
I'm not bored. Let's go. I want the answer.
These are the core. Like, we're really like seeing the matrix here in terms of how how the wiki sausage gets made.
There's a show title for you.
Yeah. Perfect. Wikipedia really, really, really wants to be based on secondary sources. Wikipedia editors don't want to be in the position of arguing about interpretations of primary sources, because there may be like a government transcript, like a Senate hearing. How do you decide which sentences of like a 3-hour, Senate hearing do you quote in a relevant article? So Wikipedia editors avoid arguing all of that by outsourcing those judgments to professional journalists who are covering that material, who have context for it, and who apply editorial judgment. So no one has applied a editorial judgment in this case to even say that the divorce was noteworthy in itself. I mean, it kind of like, here's where it's perverse. It does kind of defy logic that if the article says he's married now, we have a court case that says that he is no longer married, we should be able to use that, right? So Wikipedia editors are thinking about, well, if we apply this rule broadly, can that get us into trouble if you cite? So there is, so back to the third item is the biography of living persons policy. And that says, for information about living persons, if the information is contentious or poorly sourced, it should be left out. So this would be, I don't know if you could say this is contentious, but it is poorly sourced according to Wikipedia's guidelines. And so you don't want to be using primary sources to make claims about living people. It could affect their reputation. In the most cases, it is used to keep from adding information to, like, let's say the person got pulled over for a DUI and there was not in the news, but you could find a court record of it. Does that need to be in there? Wikipedia editors would say, if it wasn't in the press, then it wasn't that important, so we don't need to cover it. Of course, if it was in the press, then it's going to be added, and that can be hard to get out. But in this way, this is kind of a perverse outcome, that it's keeping Wikipedia from being fully accurate because it is following rules that are well-intentioned and work out right most of the time. But then there are these like edge cases. And I will say there is a very unpopular and a very little followed policy. It's basically a dead letter that today it's called ignore all rules. It says, if the rules of Wikipedia are making it harder to improve the encyclopedia, then ignore the rules.
I like
that
problem.
It seems great. It seems like a good, helpful thing. But then you get back into applying editorial judgment calls. And I think here we are at Wikipedia, being a quarter century old. Everybody knows how important it is. There's a lot of like caution around sticking your neck out. And so, there are so many arguments about all kinds of issues, large and small in Wikipedia, that sometimes editors can be just cautious and like, if I don't have to get involved in this thing, I don't really care about it. I'm gonna excuse myself from the conversation or just never show up. And so like I've been, kind of working on this guy's talk page for a couple of years and, not constantly, but trying different angles every now and then and still hasn't got there.
Is that to remove or to add?
So I think that either one could be a acceptable outcome. If we can, use the court record, which is publicly available, to say that, he's divorced, that would be fine. Also, the reason why he is notable has nothing to do with his family life. So you could remove that. And I think it would not affect the public's understanding of, this person's accomplishments. Got to get a Wikipedia editor who cares enough about it to see it my way. And it hasn't happened yet.
That's interesting how your edits, given your depth and length there, still get pushed back by the non-cabal, that you said it's not there. Because you've tried, you're making attempts. You know the protocols, the RFCs, the rulings, etc. The one piece of advice you could go back to is the one you gave before, which was go do some media coverage and just say it in media, and then you got your golden ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I have yet to press the ignore all rules case. That's sort of like the break glass in case of emergency, because it's kind of the last ditch. And I might do that at some point. And almost more to kind of, I don't want to say prove a point, because there is also a rule on Wikipedia that says don't break the rules just to make a point. That would be WP : point.
I'm not a fan of people who say double click necessarily. I like those people. So I'm not going to say double click. I'm going to say zoom in, which is my other take on it. Can you zoom into the practicality of the edit? So you write it up, you submit the edit. How does that work? What is the interface you see? Is there a discussion possibility? Do you know the name of the editor who's denying your request? Help me get into the double click version of that. If you don't mind.
No
I had to. I love those people, by the way. They're the coolest double clickers.
Wait, are you saying you love people who say double click? Is that your point?
Let's double click it on that. Let's close that tab.
That's all you had to say, Adam, was double click on that edit moment. All right, Bill.
Yeah. Anyways,
what's it feel like? What does it look like?
We're zooming in now and double clicking. And, every Wikipedia article that you read, every page that's part of the encyclopedia has right behind it, metaphorically speaking, a talk page. This is the place where Wikipedia editors hash out their disagreements. And this is where, as a paid editor, as a conflict of interest contributor, This is where I am invited to come, participate. They don't really want me making direct changes, and that's fine. As long as I can get a fair hearing, no problem with that. That can be a bit of an issue sometimes. You go to the talk page, and, at the top of the page, you can click add topic or edit this page. In terms of what you see, Wikipedia has a markup editor, wiki text. It's kind of like, HTML. It has certain code that's similar. It's a very simple coding language, a markup language, and which I'm proficient in. My team is proficient in. But there is also a visual editor that they rolled out many years ago, where you can do a WYSIWYG version. It's not as powerful, but for most purposes, it's suitable. We'll use the markup editor, and we will write a message, add a header, write an explanation of here's what I want to change, here's why, here's what I think it should change to. I will cite, policies and guidelines that are relevant, but I also don't want to overdo it. I trust that editors can see through the way that I am writing, that they know that I'm, not some rando off the street, but I know, what Wikipedia's rules are all about. And I try to make start off like a simple, request that is kind of undeniable. Fact-based edit requests, much easier to make than, again, matters of perspective are more challenging. And, I embed links to the relevant section of the page I want to change and all that. I will even put into block quotes with formatting to make it as legible as possible. So people can go look me up and find my user account and see me doing this. It's all public, obscure, but public. And then I add four tildes at the end. That applies my signature. I hit preview, check it. I hit preview several times to just get it just right. You guys want to double click? We're triple clicking now.
Triple click is now a thing.
Tilde right at this point.
Triple tilde clicks and all.
Quadruple tilde. If you do a triple tilde, it's going to leave off the date. But you want to have the timestamp there.
And they'll know you're a shyster at that point. That's right. This guy triple tilde.
He knows better.
Bro, do you even wiki?
Yeah.
And I hit publish. And then what else I do actually, and this is a tip for anybody who themselves is representing a brand and wants to actually get someone to reply to their request eventually, is to add a template to the top of the message, below the heading, above the body of the message. It's the edit COI template. It opens up, those squiggly brackets. You open with two squiggly brackets. You write edit COI, and then you close up the two squiggly brackets, and it creates a template that says the user writing below has asked someone to review this change because they have a conflict of interest. And this puts your request into a queue on another part of the site where volunteer editors who are interested in reviewing, paid editor requests, which is too few editors from my perspective, of course.
Sure.
It's just not what editors got into Wikipedia to do in the first place. Some people do find it fun, but not enough. And it can be a pain in the ass. My team takes pride in getting right to the point, not wasting anybody's time, not asking for things that you can't have. I almost caught myself there. And, not everybody does. A lot of, people will show up and try to do it, and they don't really know how to ask, or they'll write a big, wall of text that makes it, if it's TLDR, your request will sit there for a long time. As it is, your request will probably sit there for anywhere from a few days to a few weeks anyway, just because of the backlog and because it does not work in chronological or reverse chronological order. There's no first in, last out. It's people just grab the edits that's interesting.
So it could sit there for a long time if it's not of interest to somebody.
You know what? I actually happen to have the page. Okay, here we go. There are currently 243 requests as of 4:07 p.m. Eastern on November 19th, 2025. That's higher than I've seen it in a while. Probably not the highest it's ever
407?
243 open edit requests. Yeah.
243.
For paid edit requests. Yeah, where it's somebody asking about their brand, their boss, their employer, their client.
Is that worldwide, or is that coming from your firm specifically?
Worldwide for the
For the paid.
So it is the edit request queue for the edit COI template.
Gotcha.
COI being conflicts of interest, right? So it's worldwide for the English language. Wikipedia has many different language editions. English is by far the largest and the one that gets the most attention. This is where the significant majority of our work is done. We do some work in other languages, but Wikipedia is the one that people in other countries care about. Like the business language of India is English. And so that's
Sure.
that's the Wikipedia that Indians care about.
So if you had to get the editor's interest, is there the equivalent of edit bait, like something you can put in there or it's like, hey, this is going to be a fun one for you to review or anything like that?
That's a really good question. I don't think I have a good answer for it, because we're not choosing for the most part. We'll take on clients that we think have a good point to make and that we, are willing to work for.
Yeah.
But and the things they want to change are the things that they ask for that we agree are feasible. So probably the closest thing would be if we have a client with a page that needs a lot of work. We will start off, I said a version of this earlier, we'll start off with something real simple. We don't want to barge in and ask, can you change the most controversial element of this page? Mm-hmm. We want to start off with something that everybody can agree on. Let's build some trust. Let's show that we are here to build the encyclopedia, even though we're doing so from a paid perspective. That's about the best I could say.
What about bad actors? I'm sure you're not, as a contributor, you're not necessarily the one who's charged with this, but certainly there are people that aren't like yourselves. Even if you have conflict of interest, you're trying to make the encyclopedia better. There's people that are trying to destroy it. There's people that are trying to defame it. There's people that are trying to, just completely take over certain pages, certain topics, spam.
Right. Promote themselves, win an argument. Those are the...
Yeah, there's tons of interests that are against the betterment of the encyclopedia. How does that usually play out?
So there is another group of editors, sometimes overlaps with the editors who answer edit requests from the disclosed rule following paid editors like my team. But there is another group that runs a page, which is worth a look. It can be fascinating. It's called the Conflict of Interest Notice Board. This is where editors will go to report what they see as suspicious activity. I've seen the pattern of edits on this editor. They've made 30 edits and they're all to this one businessman. That's mm-hmm. a crystal clear pattern that this is someone working for, that businessman. And so editors will go in and investigate, and they may roll back edits. They usually will not just block someone for conflict of interest editing. And some of this has to do with that fear that we won't have editors in the future, that anybody who chooses to open up the browser window and make an edit, even if it is not immediately constructive, is a better bet to become a Wikipedia editor down the line than someone who's never edited in the first place. It's kind of the same principle why, you buy a pair of shoes and then, on the internet, on Amazon, and then the ads follow you around for the next couple of days asking you to buy shoes again. If you've already shown interest in this topic, you're more likely to buy that thing, even if I just did that. Don't show me shoe ads. Well, I have a friend who is a longtime Wikipedia editor, and her very first edit to Wikipedia was vandalizing it because she thought it was funny. She was also a teenager at the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize wow, I actually was able to edit this and it went live. That little aha moment, sometimes people show up and they don't know what they're doing. And I don't know, they might write a page about their best friend to impress their best friend. And then the page gets taken down, but they're like, oh, well, what else could I do? At least that's what they're hoping for.
Mm-hmm. How does a page become a page, and how does a page not become a page? I assume it's similar to an edit, but it's a much bigger thing because now it's this deserves a page. I think that's probably a bigger decision than this sentence should be modified, or maybe it's the same exact rules. How does that work?
Yeah. If we're talking about regular Wikipedians who are contributing without any kind of conflict of interest, they can just click on, if you see a red link on Wikipedia, you see fewer of them today than you did years ago. But a red link on Wikipedia means there's no page behind that. You could click on that and just start, creating the page. Or you could, figure out how to create the new space and post it up. If you don't really understand how all that works, or if you have, like a financial interest in a topic, there's a project you can go to called Articles for Creation. This too has quite the backlog, but this is where you could like write a draft entry and submit it for volunteer editors to review. And if you hit all the right points, if the subject is notable, and that's the term of art on Wikipedia, because there's a guideline called Notability. That's a whole kettle of fish. If you want to get into it, we can. And if it's approved, it goes on to the live encyclopedia, where it stays, presumably forever, as long as it continues to be deemed notable. But yes, articles are deleted too, either because they were never, notable in the first place, or that's usually the main reason. The idea is once notable, always notable, but also standards shift, opinions shift. And so there's a process also called articles for deletion, funny enough. And that's also a really fascinating one to follow, because boy, that can get emotional. And people can come in and like try to like desperately beg, plead, please leave my Wikipedia article. And look here, I've got mention in all these news articles, but a lot of those mentions, well, they might not be the kind of, sources or the kind of mentions. Like Wikipedia wants to have articles about, say, businesses that have really received true public attention, and not just within the industry vertical, a niche, but, has been covered by major press more than once. Profile pieces, not passing mentions, and not like showing up in a listicle, or certainly not a paid placement. The Forbes contributor network and all those blogs, a lot of them really are well written and they look professional, but Wikipedia will not accept Forbes contributor pieces. If it's from the magazine, now we're talking. But if it's from the Forbes contributor, it's an unpaid blog, really, not truly professional. It's not, has not been fact checked or edited. And so, yeah, deletion of pages. At my company, we do sell a service that is creating pages. We're very selective about whom we sell it to, because we don't want to sell something we can't deliver on. And that's a real challenge. We don't really sell a service that's saving your page from deletion. We'll be like, this will run its course in 2 weeks. If it survives, we can help you, improve it. But if it's not, if it's not, then you probably need more sources.
I think it's kind of wild that I'm assuming that there's a lot of PR companies like yours. Maybe how many would you say there are in the world that are like you?
You mean that focus on Wikipedia?
Yeah.
So there is a very limited universe of, what I would call guideline compliant, rule following. It's like on one hand, I can count the number of agencies that do what we do. And we were the first. I started the company back in 2010. There are a handful of big PR firms that have someone on staff who does this work credibly. But then, and here's one of the challenges of operating in this space, is like if you were just to go, do a Google search for, Wikipedia help or Wikipedia editor for hire or how to create a Wikipedia page, you're going to find these really like hard sell, aggressive, fly by night companies that many of them are the same, person or small network operating overseas. They will offer 100% guaranteed results, and they will, they'll claim to have all kinds of testimonials, but they're never from real people, and they will take your money and run. And at best they will do at best they'll take your money and run. At worst, they might, create a page you hate and then create an issue. And I guess there's a middle category. There's a handful of agencies that will do this work, and they'll either claim to be following the rules, but I've seen their work. I know they're not, or they just hope their clients don't know any better. Because Wikipedia is still a esoteric thing. But yeah. Clients don't know what the rules of engagement are. So that's sort of three categories, and we're in the smallest one.
I guess I don't really have a question, but more like an area where I'm hovering here. Because I'm thinking I'm back to like Jimmy Wales is not a billionaire. Maybe you've got a large swath of PR folks like you all, some that are credible, some that are less credible, but certainly a cottage industry of economics around editing and contributing to Wikipedia. And I'm just thinking like how that plays out in terms of maybe do you all even give back to Wikipedia as part of your revenue model to maintain the source of truth being there?
Mm-hmm.
And just like, I guess just again, not really a question, but just more around the economics of it. Cause you guys are making money. Jimmy's not making billions at
Doesn't
least.
go to him.
I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, the money doesn't go to him anyway, would it?
Yeah, don't cry for Jimmy. He's doing well.
Yeah, I'm getting asked right now to donate $2 or something like that to Wikipedia. It's like, I don't know. I'm just looking at the economics around Wikipedia is really, I'm like zooming into that, I suppose.
So, you raised
double clicks.
The topic of fundraising came up earlier, and I didn't really go at it. Wikipedia, all right, it's about to be donation season again, fundraising season. And that hard sell, their own hard sell that you mentioned, is contentious among Wikipedia editors. And not just because the money doesn't go to them, it does not go to them, of course, but because Wikipedia, those fundraisers are extremely successful. Wikipedia's budget is like $100 million every year. And, they raise what they spend and it goes in and out. And, there are over 100 employees, not counting contractors at the foundation. And it's not clear that a lot of what the work they do actually makes the encyclopedia better. It's almost kind of its own thing. It's this NGO that, is, I don't know, conservatives would say that it supports woke causes. And that's an interesting, thing to unpack. But a lot of it is just, trying to improve the ecosystem of editors, but the money, it's difficult to spend the money well, because they can't directly pay for content. That's in their charter as well. So editors in the past a couple of years ago, there was like an editor revolt of sorts where they pressured the foundation to tone down some of that alarmist rhetoric about how Wikipedia will go away. And guess what? Like, the fundraising tanked that year and they had to lay off a bunch of people. And I mentioned that Wikimedia Enterprise was a client of ours.
Mm-hmm.
That was really the reason why they had to let us go. They didn't have the budget. I hope they don't get mad about me saying that if they hear this. No hard feelings, truly, but I mean, that is what happened.
Now it's clear.
Yeah, now it's clear. The truth comes out at, we're an hour and 15 in.
Get the transcript, put it on Wikipedia.
The economic, right. The economics, though. I want to get to the economics or the ecosystem, right? So, I have wished in the past that Wikipedia had developed an ecosystem like, say, Linux. And I've tried making this argument in the past that, there's no such thing as the Red Hat of Linux. If there was, the Red Hat of Wikipedia. If there was, I think we would be it. But there is this, and this also gets to Wikipedia having kind of like a left-leaning disposition. I mentioned academics, but there's also kind of an anti-corporate atmosphere around Wikipedia, which is a principal challenge of the work that we do. But it's also a reason why our service is viable to begin with, because it is difficult to work on company topics. Like if you're a regular old Wikipedia editor editing in your own spare time, and you just happen to be really interested in writing corporate biographies, other Wikipedia editors are going to look at you and be very skeptical, because few editors get into Wikipedia because they want to work on corporate profiles, unless it's like Nintendo or,
some beloved.
Yeah, things that are beloved. So like I'm kind of like, I'm still working at this, speaking of PR firms in Wikipedia and firms that I founded, Beutler Inc.'s been around now for 15 years, but just this fall, I launched a new proper PR firm focused on Wikipedia. So it's called the Notability Company. My firm is not a traditional PR firm, so we are partnering with an agency principal who is a seasoned PR leader. And so we came together and we started this. It's just really the two of us right now who are running it. But the whole idea is to generate earned media that Wikipedia cares about. And so if it's a marathon, not a sprint. It is not easy to do. But the thing is, like, traditional PR firms are not focused on the type of results that produce the kind of stories that Wikipedia likes. The Notability Company aims to settle that. And so this is very much startup. It's, we really launched it about 5 weeks ago. But I'm optimistic for it. I do think there should be more of an ecosystem around Wikipedia because it's so important, and it's too important to be entirely left to the volunteers. That there are organizations and nonprofits besides the foundation that are focused on different aspects of Wikipedia. There's a Wiki Project Med Foundation that is focused on medical health related articles. There is a there's the Wiki Education Foundation, which partners with universities. If our children, a few years from now, don't hear their teachers telling them to not use Wikipedia, it'll probably because the Wiki Education Foundation did its job of helping teachers understand how it can be a pedagogical tool and not something to be totally avoided.
Yeah.
So good question. Great topic.
One of the things you say, I'm on your LinkedIn right now, the Notability Company. You say we help brands and nonprofits. Forgive me for promoting it here for a second. We help brands and nonprofits earn the coverage that makes Wikipedia possible. I know you may have buried some of that in terms of like what you do and what you can do to get the edit right out there, but like in practical terms, what exactly does that mean?
In practical terms, it means generating news coverage, professional media coverage, profiles in. And here's the thing we've not talked about too much: reliable sources. Wikipedia wants to be built out of sources that are independent of the subject, that have a track record of doing putting out factual information. Again, here's where journalism heavily figures into what Wikipedia does, and so it really wants coverage that explains why the subject is significant. And so, not every prospective client of the Notability Company is going to be a good fit for our service. But for a company that is growing, that is doing something interesting, or for a nonprofit that is doing good work, but their publicity that they've done before and their earned media, like knowing the PR industry where like performance PR, the guaranteed results, but it's like the publicist writes it and places it on a website that looks journalistic, but isn't really. Like Wikipedia editors are not fooled by that. It also doesn't mean you have to be in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal to get that. But like, your hometown daily paper, if it even still is daily anymore, you want to get like articles about your accomplishments and why you're interesting. If it's a biography of a person, you want that kind of profile that starts off in media res and, talks about the thing you're doing. And then in paragraph 7, it jumps to like, born and raised in small town, Ohio. That coverage is hard to get. That is, Wikipedia editors know that. The thing is though, PR firms are not really focused on that. And so like, it is a great question. And in fact, probably the next step of kind of developing the service is providing examples of, what I want to do is go grab some articles that have been recently created, either by my firm or just, new company articles, and then like back engineer, go to those references and kind of like, look for the commonalities between those stories. And that will, in a few weeks time, I'll be able to give you more of a generic, broad descriptor. Right now, I'm just sort of describing like, the kind of in-depth profile pieces that, tend to go for the more famous types of people and companies get it. But that's it. And
that's all predicated on the value of Wikipedia being Wikipedia, right? Because there's a paid service. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're going through a lot of work to reverse engineer or engineer your way into it by, examining previously accepted articles or whatever may have been facts or information that allow editors to, hit the accept button.
Right.
Is that a big business that you're going to build? What can it be? Will it be bigger than your current? Is it going to be big? And can you quantify some version of big?
Yeah. Well, we'll find out, right? It's
Honest answer.
Like the reason why I wanted to start it was because for many years, we get, people come to us and say, can you create a page about us? And most of the time, the answer is no. Like I would say probably, 80% of the inbound inquiries we get are about creating a Wikipedia article for them. But probably 80% of the actual work that Beutler Inc. does is improving existing pages, especially for large, well-established companies. So there's a really like an imbalance, there's a symmetry to it. But I've been thinking about how to is there a way to monetize or address that interest? And, even though Beutler Inc. definitely is in the PR space, we're not a traditional PR agency. We don't do that earned media. And so for many years, we'd say, you should go to your publicist, you should go to your PR firm and get more in media. But we found that those firms were not focused on the right kinds of coverage. And so the Notability Company is going to be focused on only that kind of coverage. And so we think that we could be either their sole PR firm, or we could be an add-on to their PR firm.
Yeah.
And, Beutler Inc. is a company, we have many direct clients, but we also get a lot of referrals from PR firms where they don't do Wikipedia work. It just sounds like a headache. Oh, I know a guy, we got just the people. Let me send you over to them. I mean, that's that's how I built my book of business in the first place way back in 2010.
Carving out a niche.
Still a source. Absolutely.
What about the notability, I guess, to use your brand term?
Yeah.
Of the places you want to get earned media, are those becoming fewer and far between because of, I would imagine there's a lot of ad supported creators out there, and I'm not even sure, is a creator a notable source? Like, how do you define what is the test to say, okay, notable, not notable, or credible, not credible?
Right. So the term of art in this case is reliable. Reliable sources.
Reliable. Sorry about that. My bad.
No. I mean,
erase what I said. Put
nobody can remember these. I mean,
I'm trying my best. I was trying to use your brand term. I figured it was on point, slightly off.
Well, notability is on point because they're trying to make people notable by getting them into reliable sources.
There you go.
Bam.
Very well done. Nailed it,
Jerod. Congratulations.
I'm tracking.
But your question is totally on point here, and it's not even a new thing, right? Just the general decline of ad supported media, any media. Well, I'm old enough, we're old enough that remember that in the 2000s, like the magazine apocalypse, happened 15, 20 years ago. It's been in decline pretty much the entire time that we've been adults. And I have friends who used to work for. I have a friend who used to work for Newsweek magazine, worked in DC and New York. And she could call cars to the office to take her home at night. And she had an expense report. Those things used to just print money. Newsweek, which by the way, still exists as a website, but it is now kind of like a right wing, shadow of itself. The brand lives on, but it's not the same publication at all. And that era is super gone, never coming back. And now we are potentially on the precipice of another collapse as the publisher sites and internet are losing out traffic to ChatGPT as it's answering the questions that people would search for them. Here's where Wikipedia is in a better space. It doesn't need, it doesn't have advertising, but the sources that it depends on
needs reliable sources
are in peril.
And the sources are going away, or they're completely losing their credibility in the public's eye. I mean, at least in the United States, the powers that be press-wise, which are all kind of owned by corporate interests and stuff like that, they've never been less relied upon. So many people don't even trust them anymore. But if Wikipedia does, I mean, maybe that will be, if anything, maybe leading towards its trend down in influence over time. It might be that.
Yeah, it's a long-term risk. It's absolutely a risk. And I would say it definitely has a negative impact on the growth potential of my business.
Right.
Because if there was more journalism about more companies, then there would be more sources that we could cite. There'd be more, profile pieces establishing notability. So we are swimming against the currents a little bit there. Let me also ask this in a different way. Speaking again, back to the ecosystem, where I would like to build up an ecosystem. Here's a project that I cannot own, so I'm giving this away to anybody who wants to start this, and you can reach out to me to get my guidance on it. But like, there should be a publication, which is basically like a factcheck.org for Wikipedia. It would be a place where, for example, my client could, get just a simple fact check, of his marital status, and you would build the news organization around what the reliable sources guideline says. If you are to reverse engineer that guideline, you could start up a publication that is a reliable source for sure. And so creators don't follow any of this, whether, most YouTubers, certainly no TikTokers. YouTube is definitely has more credible, reporting than again, TikTok, let alone Instagram. But someone should create a publication that exists to help Wikipedia, verify sources. And to be clear, I do not mean citation laundering. I don't mean trying to skirt around the rules. I mean, hire some journalists, do some actual reporting and fact checking, and, how you fund that and why anybody would want to do so other than that. Yeah, it's a great question. I think I have some ideas on how it would be funded by PR, AI, and, philanthropy. Yeah. I have these ideas. Please come talk to me about it. But I'm a former news guy, as I said at the top. I would love that thing to exist, and, but Beutler Inc. can't run it. That would kind of defeat the whole purpose.
Absolutely.
Arm's length and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At the very least, arm's length. Yeah.
That's interesting. Here's a free idea. I can't do it, but it's really good. So you should come and do it if you're capable.
There you go.
Right.
So let's end on this, if you're willing, Bill. I just posted a Wikipedia page into the chat. I'm not sure if you have access to the chat there.
Got it here.
I do not have a Wikipedia page, nor do I deserve one. However, my name does appear a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Through this podcast. This is Eugen Rochko's page. He's the creator of Mastodon. Noteworthily, he just recently announced he's resigning as CEO or something like that. But at the bottom of that page, we have a section called media coverage.
Yep, there it is.
In which case it says in a 2018 podcast with Jerod Santo and Adam Sokoviak from Twitter and GitHub, Rochko described in depth the origin of Mastodon. Now, I am not from Twitter and Adam is not from GitHub, so this is incorrect. And how, in your expertise ways, would I go about correcting the record here? Because that's wrong. Yeah.
This is a pickle. And for more than one reason. One,
this is a pickle.
Have I can't solve all problems,
Okay.
I'm pretty good
tell us how bad this is here.
Look, for 98.7% of all Wikipedia articles, this is, no big deal. This is Wikipedia having information. I mean, look, the fact that it's wrong is the issue, right?
Right. I don't really care one way or the other, but it's just wrong. It should be right,
This is a case where I would say if you went in and changed it, you would not be, and I'm willing to say this at an hour and a half in, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, right? Because your intentions would be to correct the thing already there.
Yeah.
And it'd be better for it to be corrected than incorrect.
Yeah.
That said, though, if you were to go post an edit request like our clients do, you might find an editor pointing out that the source goes back to your own website, does it not? And,
it does.
Right.
Is there a link back to our site? I didn't notice that there was or not.
Let me see here. Hold on a second. The citation. This is interesting. It's using a citation format.
Number 26.
Number 26. Hold on. Well, yeah. Okay. So here you are. But then when you click on it, no, I found it now. Okay. Join the Federation. Mastodon awaits. And so it goes to, the changelog page. Look, I think it's at least an open question, whether changelog would be considered a reliable source. I think the short version would be no, especially if he is the person who said it. I would say that if you guys are, kind of doing research and you are offering commentary, you are well established as a podcast, experts in a field. If either of you have written on these subjects in, say for like, I don't know. Like
I write changelog news every week. So like,
Yeah,
I'm
your
not a
own
journalist,
Yeah.
but we are documentators of the news.
Yeah. Right. No, and I see, not just because I'm on your show right now, I'd be willing to give
you can't
you
get this changed. Is that what you're trying to say?
benefit of the doubt because of the additional, like you don't just do the interviews, you also do news reporting as well, and covering the coverage. And I think that counts for something. Totally. You are more professional news.
Thank you.
More professional media, outlet than most podcasts are. And so
I'm just here for the compliments, Bill.
yeah.
So if I wanted to change this, like basically all I would like to say is, we're not from Twitter and GitHub. We're from the changelog.
Yeah.
And then like, do I just click edit and then I just change the text and say, look, I'm Jerod. This is wrong.
You want me to do it?
I mean, I don't have any money, but
well, I'm not going to use my business account. I'm going to use my personal account.
This is Bill personal.
This is Bill's.
This is what you came for.
Scratching my back, Bill. I would like you to submit that. That would be amazing. I mean, that saves me from having to even remember my password because I haven't submitted it for years.
I tried to actually log in, Jerod, while we're on this pod, and I guess the email that I use for Wikipedia for my account, maybe I don't have access to it. It won't tell me what it is, so I got to go through the process of proving I'm me, basically, at this point to get my true account back. I think I might have one edit out there.
Did you not use a email account when you set it up?
I think so, because whenever I'm trying to log in, it is telling me to verify with a code to an email that is blocked from my visibility. And I checked the ones I think it would be, and the code is not there. So at this point, I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know which email account it's using. There's only two that I would have used. So, and it's not in either of those accounts.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, I'm going to make this change because at least I'm going to make it correct. I will add this, like the sentence is not like it adds like massively critical information that like in the podcast, he described the company he built, but I'm going to write.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Maybe I'm the one that created this edit back in 2018, back when I was trying to get my website on the, but I wouldn't have put from Twitter and GitHub unless I was trying to make them think I was important.
Well, I'm going to do the favor of not, looking into that right now. I'm going to just correct the thing in front of me, which most Wikipedia editors do, right? It's better to make a small edit that makes it a little better than to like, you're not on the hook for going back and, determining the absolute best possible version of the page.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the reason why my company exists, because we will do that deep research and try to write the best version of the page. Most Wikipedia editors are just, kind of like moseying along, and they might see something in the news. Oh, that's not on the page. Let me add it. This is one reason why Wikipedia biographies sometimes are so scattershot, because that's literally what happens. Like 13 people added 13 different sentences over 13 years, and no one's ever applied, any editorial, hand to it. Anyway, if you reload the page now, you will see that
it's fixed.
You are from the changelog and not from.
We'll see
Twitter
if it sticks.
Wow.
This is amazing.
I think it will.
Speaking to the power and the coolness of Wikipedia for a moment, I just mentioned that Eugen just announced his retirement yesterday. It's there. It's the last one on November.
Someone added it.
Rajko stepped down. Now, the weird thing about this is the citation for that particular sentence, which is the second to last sentence prior to the media coverage section, links to his Mastodon post.
Yeah.
Isn't that a primary source?
It is, and it is not the ideal source, because I've been working on this issue with my client. One potential option that's been floated to me would be to have him post something on his Twitter or X account, which I think he doesn't want to do either, frankly. So there is a deep, so I happen to be familiar with this area of policy right now. It is the BLP primary is the shortcut, and it says that it can be occasionally all right to use self-published sources for biographies if it comes from the person, and if it updates something that was already wrong, for example. So it's not the most ideal source. Here's the thing, again, for 99% of Wikipedia articles, this is fun. It's useful. And if it's not useful, most pages are not, controversial.
Yeah, like they're going to accept this until maybe somebody comes by and is like, hey, that's wrong. And then it's like, well, the source is bad. And then maybe it would go away. Gotcha.
More likely it stays for a long time because it's right.
Yeah.
A lot of Wikipedia is, doing the best possible job in the moment. And it isn't until you get to those really hard pages that are either in politics or in matters of lawsuits and, other things that big businesses are kind of inherently a contested subject. If not outwardly controversial, they are at least closely scrutinized. Eugene Rochko, first I've heard of him. Obviously, I created a Mastodon account and posted on it once a long time ago. And I love the photo. It's Wikipedia photos are, I know we're late into this, but like speaking of the ecosystem, one thing that does exist is there's a project called Wiki Portraits, run by some friends of mine, and they go to Sundance and South by Southwest and the Cannes Film Festival, and they set up a pop-up studio and they take headshots of people so they can put quality photos on Wikipedia. They're not a for-profit company. They have a grant to do it, but that's kind of a cool thing because Wikipedia photos of the living persons, they can't use copyrighted photos. That's just also part of the guidelines or part of the site, licensing. And so you get some hilarious, photos where it's like a basketball player from behind that somebody snapped a photo from the sidelines. You'll still see that.
I think that kind of maybe lends to the community feel, kind of the...
Yeah.
It's authentic.
Yeah.
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 Still built by volunteers.
Well, Bill, I'm glad that I waited till 90 minutes in to get my edit request submitted because you happily obliged. And there it is. I mean, correction. I just like when the true stuff is out there, Adam. I mean, Adam, you never worked at GitHub, did you?
No, I have not.
You don't want that to be public record, right? That's just not true.
No, I mean, it's not true. It's not valid information.
It's just a weird thing. Yeah. And trivial, it was definitely no big deal to remove. And look, I perhaps in this way, I have a little bit of, veteran privilege where highly unlikely someone comes along to undo that. And besides, I'm right. It's on that other person to prove that you, that's really the thing. Can they prove that you worked?
And they're never going to prove that because we're not even public figures. They're going to be like, well, how would you even know?
Can't prove a negative.
Well, you do one search and you don't find GitHub, you find the changelog. So it's like one search. Our search results part of the second party, third party validation systems.
Well, it depends on where you land. You land on a reputable source or a reliable source.
If a link to say that you work for GitHub or Twitter is buried on page 4 because of misinformation, but the truth is on page 1, I mean, you got to add 1 and 1 together, not get 11. You got to get 1, or you got to get 2. Sorry about that.
All right, that's where we end the show. 1 + 1 = 1. I mean, come on. What is truth?
What is truth around here? That's cool. Super geek, real quick. I mean, cool thing on their cache busting. You push submit, it busted the cache on this global website, and immediately it was updated for Omaha and Austin, Texas. So that's cool.
Well, 25 years, they've ironed out the kinks, man.
It's a marvel. It is the 8th wonder of the world. Absolutely.
Bill, thanks so much for telling us all about it, man. This has been awesome.
Thanks, guys. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks, Bill.
Definitely.